Imagine waking up in a world where the rustling leaves whisper your name, the river hums ancient songs as it flows, and the wind carries the memory of your ancestors. This isn't fantasy, it's the very real worldview held by millions of people across history and still today. It's called animism, and it may be the oldest belief system humanity has ever known. Long before temples, before gods had names, before even the first words were etched into stone, there was this: the belief that everything around you is alive, that the world is not a dead stage for human action, but a living presence full of spirit and meaning. Animism isn't just a religion, it's a lens, a way of seeing the universe as brimming with soul. Trees, rocks, thunderstorms, animals, mountains, even the sun and moon, all carry spirit, intention, personality. To the animist, the world isn't a resource, it's a relationship. And that single shift in mindset changes everything. A mountain isn't conquered, it's respected. A hunt isn't sport, it's a dialogue. Fire isn't controlled, it's negotiated with. This belief system is so ancient, so embedded in our species' early memory, that it might actually be the default human spirituality, the one that came before all others. But why did our ancestors believe the world was alive? Were they wrong? Or did they know something we've forgotten? In this video, we're going to trace the incredible story of animism from the very beginning. From the flickering fires of Paleolithic tribes to the sacred rituals of modern-day shamans, we'll journey across continents, inside myths, and deep into the spirit of the natural world. We'll discover how this seemingly primitive belief quietly shaped the world's greatest religions and how its echoes still guide us today. You'll meet cultures who talk to rivers, who marry trees, who offer songs to stones and gifts to lightning. You'll hear myths where forests breathe and animals speak with wisdom. And most importantly, you'll begin to see your world differently, not as silent and inert, but as awake, watching, and full of story. So let's dive into the most ancient, most beautiful, and most misunderstood belief system in human history. This is not just about old traditions. This is about reconnecting with something we've always known, that we are not alone, that the world is alive. To understand where animism begins, we have to journey back tens of thousands of years, deep into the Paleolithic era, before cities, before writing, before even the concept of religion as we know it. Imagine early humans huddled around a fire, staring up at a sky scattered with stars they couldn't name, surrounded by forests full of sounds they didn't yet understand. In that raw, mysterious world, everything was alive. Not metaphorically, literally. The wind was a spirit, the sun was a living eye. The animals were not just meat, but messengers. To live in that world was to be surrounded by meaning, by agency, by presence. Animism likely emerged not as a structured belief system, but as a visceral response to wonder and survival. When you don't have scientific models or philosophical frameworks, the world reveals itself in feeling. A tree creaked in the night, not as random physics, but as a voice. A sudden storm wasn't just the climate, it was emotion, power, or warning. Every shadow could carry a presence. Every sound might be a sign. Early humans didn't just observe nature, they communicated with it. And nature, they believed, responded in kind. This mindset wasn't naive, it was deeply adaptive. By assigning spirit to natural forces, early humans could form relationships with their environment. That meant respect, caution, gratitude. To disrespect the river could mean drought. To honor the animal you hunted was to ensure the cycle of life continued. These were not quaint traditions. They were strategies for survival encoded in myth, ritual, and storytelling. Evidence of this belief system lies in the world's oldest art, the cave paintings in Lascaux and Chauvet. Haunting, graceful images of bison, horses, deer were not decorative, they were sacred. To draw a creature was to invoke its presence. The walls of those caves were altars, not galleries. This wasn't art for humans. It was communication with the animal spirit world. The act of painting was itself a form of ritual, a silent prayer, a moment of contact. From this sacred connection came the shaman, the one who could cross the boundary between the visible and invisible. The shaman was not a priest of doctrine, but a traveler between realms, using trance, rhythm, and vision to speak with the spirits. These early spiritual leaders were found in nearly every early society, from the Arctic tundra to tropical forests, each interpreting the language of the unseen, offering healing, insight, and protection. They weren't chosen by institutions. They were chosen by the spirits, by dreams, by suffering. Often, a shaman's initiation came through illness or trauma, some rupture that forced them to step beyond the ordinary. It's important to understand that early animism wasn't irrational. It was deeply logical in a symbolic and emotional sense. In a world of chaos and danger, spirit offered coherence. It allowed early humans to believe they were not powerless, that they could negotiate with the world, find balance with it. Animism gave meaning to death, to sickness, to the mysterious and the beautiful. It wove humans into the fabric of life, not as rulers, but as relatives. What we see in these ancient practices is not the birth of religion, but the birth of awareness. Awareness that life is shared, that agency is distributed, and that spirit is not confined to flesh. The dawn of belief wasn't a leap to heaven. It was a rooting into the earth, into water, into fire. Animism was not a primitive superstition. It was humanity's first conversation with existence, a whispered dialogue between our ancestors and the world they walked through. And if you listen closely, you can still hear the echoes. At the heart of animism lies a revolutionary idea, one so fundamental, so quietly powerful, that it rewires the way you see everything around you. It is the belief that all things possess spirit, not just living things, but everything. The wind has intention, the mountain has memory, the river is not just water flowing through a landscape, but a being with its own soul, moods, and desires. To the animist, there are no inanimate objects. There is no such thing as dead matter. The world is not filled with things. It is filled with persons. Some of them human, most of them not. This is not spirit as a ghost or a supernatural figure floating in the background. It's deeper than that. Spirit in animism is the force of presence, the awareness and agency that exists in all elements of the natural world. A rock may not speak in words, but it has a story. A forest may not walk, but it breathes, it listens, and it remembers. In many animist cultures, this presence is called a life force, a vital energy that animates and connects all things. It goes by many names across different traditions: mana, chi, orenda, prana, but the core idea is the same. Life is everywhere, and all life is interconnected. Animism doesn't divide the world into sacred and profane, natural and supernatural. There is no hierarchy of spirit. A snake in a storm may be just as spiritually significant as a human or a god. This radically flattens the spiritual landscape. It means that wisdom can come from anywhere. It means that the sacred can be found not just in temples, but in puddles, in moss, in the glance of a deer. It means the world is alive with meaning, not because we project it there, but because it's already there, waiting to be noticed. The soul in animistic thinking is not a static thing encased in a body. It's dynamic. Some cultures believe every person has multiple souls, one that stays, one that travels in dreams, one that connects to ancestors. Others believe that humans and animals can share parts of their soul. In many traditions, a person's soul is deeply tied to their environment. A river spirit might help guard their well-being, while the soul of a hunted animal might return in another form to watch over them. This fluid relational model of the soul breaks down the walls between self and other, human and animal, body and earth. Animistic logic is intuitive rather than analytical. It doesn't rely on rigid doctrines, but on observation, experience, and relationship. If you treat a tree as if it has spirit, and that changes how you live, then the tree has spirit. If you sense that the wind carries a warning and your intuition guides you well, then the wind has spoken. In this worldview, truth is not only external, it's lived, felt, and shared through ritual, story, and symbol. This belief system is astonishingly resilient because it adapts to place. Animism in the Arctic looks different than animism in the rainforest. The spirits reflect the land, the climate, the animals, the rhythms of life. But the foundation remains the same. The world is filled with beings, not things. And every being deserves attention, respect, and relationship. To live as an animist is to live in constant dialogue. It is to approach the world not as a machine to be understood, but as a community to be in relationship with. It is to live with humility because you are never alone. Everything around you sees, hears, and responds. And in that web of connection, meaning emerges, not imposed by humans, but discovered in partnership with the living world. Animism is not a singular doctrine tied to one region or people. It is a global phenomenon, a worldview that has emerged independently in cultures all across the planet. From deserts to jungles, tundras to highlands, the belief that spirit pervades the world is as old as humanity itself. What's remarkable is not just that so many cultures embraced animism, but how uniquely they shaped it, reflecting the landscapes, animals, and ancestral memories that defined their world. In Africa, animism remains deeply woven into the fabric of life. Across the continent's vast and varied regions, countless indigenous belief systems echo the core animistic principle that all things possess spirit. Among the Yoruba of West Africa, the Orisha are not distant gods, but spiritual forces present in rivers, lightning, iron, and trees. Rituals involve communicating with these forces through dance, song, and divination. In the Congo, the Bakongo people view life and death as a cycle guided by ancestors who still walk among the living. The land itself is alive, and to damage it without reverence is to invite imbalance and misfortune. In many African traditions, sacred groves are protected spaces where humans may enter only with permission, for the spirits of trees and animals dwell there and must be greeted as kin. Moving east into Asia, animism appears in a dazzling variety of forms. In Shinto, the indigenous spirituality of Japan, kami, spiritual essences, inhabit rocks, waterfalls, trees, and even man-made objects. Shrines dot the country, built not to worship distant deities but to honor the spirits that live nearby, often a tree or a mountain with a name and personality. The act of bowing to a shrine is not just ritual, it's a greeting, a recognition of presence. In Siberia, the Evenki, a reindeer-herding people, believe the world is filled with spirits, both helpful and harmful. Shamans wear elaborate costumes and beat drums to journey into spirit realms, seeking answers from animal guides and nature spirits. Even further south in Southeast Asia, animism blends into Buddhism and Hinduism. In Bali, offerings of flowers, incense, and rice are placed daily at crossroads, under trees, in homes, not only to gods, but to the countless spirits who share space with humans. In the Americas, indigenous animistic beliefs form the core of countless tribes' spiritual lives. Among the Lakota Sioux of North America, the concept of Wakan Tanka, the Great Mystery, includes not just a creator, but the entire spiritual network of existence. Everything from the eagle to the stone is part of this sacred web. Ceremonies like the Sweat Lodge or the Vision Quest are not symbolic rituals. They are real communications with the spirit world, conducted with humility and precision. In the Amazon, tribes such as the Shipibo, Conibo see the rainforest as an intricate living system, filled with plant spirits, animal allies, and ancestral beings. The hallucinogenic brew ayahuasca is taken not to escape reality, but to deepen one's communion with the jungle's consciousness. Even in modern urban environments, many Native American and First Nations people continue to practice animistic rituals, from smudging with sage to dream interpretation and seasonal ceremonies honoring the land. In Australia, the Aboriginal peoples possess one of the oldest continuous animistic traditions on Earth. Their belief system, known often as the dreaming or dream time, is a complex spiritual framework that describes the creation of the world and its ongoing sacred presence. According to the dreaming, ancestral beings shaped the land, sang rivers into existence, danced mountains into form, and left their essence behind. Every rock formation, tree, and waterhole has a story, not a myth, but a spiritual truth. Songlines, invisible paths across the land that connect sacred sites, are walked and sung by elders who maintain the memory of the land's spirit. The connection between people and place is so intimate that to forget a story or neglect a ritual can damage both the soul and the landscape. Even Europe, often associated with monotheistic traditions today, has deep roots in animistic thought. In the Celtic traditions of ancient Ireland and Scotland, rivers had goddesses, groves were sacred, and animals were messengers between worlds. Druids acted as spiritual mediators, and the seasons were marked by festivals tied to the rhythms of the earth. Stones were not just markers, they were beings, like the ones arranged at Stonehenge, whose alignments echo cosmic cycles. Norse mythology, too, is built on animistic foundations. The world tree Yggdrasil connects all realms of existence. Spirits inhabit the waters, the forests, and even tools and weapons. In Slavic cultures, domovoi are household spirits, and forests are ruled by leshi, wild guardians of the trees. These beliefs did not vanish with Christianity. They often merged, disguised in folklore, fairy tales, and local customs. Across all these regions, animism doesn't merely describe the world, it sustains it. It creates a framework in which humans are not the dominant force, but a participant in a vast, interconnected web. Whether in the chants of a Balinese priest, the drumbeat of a Siberian shaman, the prayer of a native elder, or the stories whispered by an Aboriginal elder, the same truth echoes. The world is alive. Every place has a spirit, every being has a role, and it is the duty of humans not to rule over this world, but to listen, honor, and protect it. What's remarkable is how this ancient belief continues to thrive, evolve, and resurface in contemporary movements. Many modern people, disconnected from the land, are rediscovering animistic thinking through environmentalism, plant medicine, and a deepening awareness that the earth is not a machine, but a presence. From continent to continent, animism is not a fossil. It is a living, breathing way of being, as varied as the winds and as eternal as the soil beneath our feet. Animism is not just a belief, it is a practice, a way of living that manifests in thousands of tangible forms across the world. These practices are not empty rituals, but ongoing conversations with the spirit-filled universe. They are how animist cultures maintain relationship, balance, and respect with the unseen forces that surround them. Every gesture, every word, every drumbeat is meaningful. Animistic rituals aren't about control, they're about connection. One of the most iconic symbols of animistic practice is the totem. Totems are not merely carvings or symbols, they are representations of spiritual kinship. Among many indigenous peoples, particularly in North America and Australia, totems serve as guardians, ancestors, and teachers. A clan may have a bear, eagle, or wolf as their totem, not as a mascot, but as a spiritual relative. The qualities of that animal are believed to shape the identity and destiny of the group. Children are told stories of their totem animal, passed down through generations, so they can understand their lineage, their place in the world, and the responsibilities that come with it. To disrespect one's totem is to dishonor your heritage and spiritual bond. Shamanism is perhaps the most recognizable animistic tradition found in cultures from Siberia to the Amazon, from Mongolia to the Arctic Circle. A shaman is not a priest in the conventional sense. They are a mediator, a healer, and a traveler between worlds. Through drumming, chanting, dancing, fasting, or ingesting sacred plants, shamans enter trance states in which they communicate with spirits of animals, ancestors, and nature itself. They bring back knowledge, healing, or warnings. Shamans may call upon spirit allies, shape-shift in dreams, or retrieve lost soul fragments to restore harmony to a person or community. Their tools, feathers, bones, drums, and masks, are not decorative. Each is a vessel of spirit, an extension of their relationship with the other world. Offerings are central to animistic life. They may be simple: a bowl of rice left at a river, a flower placed at a tree's base, a whisper of smoke drifting from burning herbs. These are not bribes or bargains. They are gestures of respect, gratitude, and presence. In Bali, daily offerings are made not just to gods, but to household spirits, roadside spirits, and even mischievous ones that might cause trouble if ignored. In Africa and the Caribbean, libations of water or alcohol are poured onto the earth to honor ancestors. These offerings remind both spirit and human of their mutual responsibilities. To give is to acknowledge relationship. To forget is to invite imbalance. Storytelling is another living practice, perhaps the most sacred. In animistic cultures, stories are not just entertainment. They are maps. They carry the laws of the land, the memory of ancestors, and the moral lessons encoded in the behavior of animals and spirits. A story about a trickster fox or a wise turtle is not just a fable. It's a guide to surviving the world, to understanding one's place in the cosmic order. Elders pass down these stories orally, with deep care. They are not merely told. They are performed, remembered, and lived. And when a story is forgotten, it is said that part of the world's spirit fades with it. Perhaps the deepest and most emotionally powerful animistic practice is ancestral worship. To an animist, death does not sever connection. Ancestors are not gone. They have changed form. They reside in the land, in dreams, in the wind. They are consulted for guidance, protection, and support. Homes may have ancestor altars. Grave sites may be revisited regularly with food, music, or prayer. In some cultures, ancestors are seen as co-creators of present life. When a child is born, it is said to carry the spirit of a grandparent. This intergenerational bond ensures that no one is truly alone. You are always part of a larger continuum, and your life is a thread in an eternal tapestry. Together, these rituals, totems, shamanic journeys, offerings, stories, and ancestor reverence form the heartbeat of animistic cultures. They are not separate from daily life. They are life. Through them, the world is kept in balance, the community stays in harmony, and the invisible threads connecting all things remain strong and vibrant. These are not relics of the past. They are practices of the present, alive, evolving, and still whispering to those who know how to listen. When placed beside the towering structures of organized religion, animism can seem quiet, even invisible. There are no temples of gold, no sacred texts carved in stone, no single founder or codified law. Yet animism predates them all. It is the spiritual root system from which many world religions unknowingly grew, a deep, ancient current of belief that flows beneath the surface of human culture. But as civilizations rose and formal religions took shape, the animistic worldview was not erased. It was absorbed, transformed, and at times deliberately pushed aside. What separates animism from major religions like Christianity, Islam, or even Hinduism is its radically decentralized nature. In animism, there are no hierarchies of holiness. Spirit is not contained in a distant heaven, nor monopolized by a priesthood. It exists everywhere. In the leaf, the stone, the riverbank, and the breath of a dying animal. There is no need for a sacred book to validate these truths. The forest is the scripture. The wind carries the teachings. Spiritual authority lies in experience, not in dogma. In contrast, organized religions often define the divine as separate, transcendent, and removed. In Christianity, for instance, God is often portrayed as a being beyond creation, the creator, but not the creation itself. The natural world is viewed as made by God, but not inherently divine. This creates a dualism: spirit versus matter, sacred versus profane. In Islam, the world is seen as a reflection of Allah's will, beautiful and meaningful, yet Allah himself remains beyond the material. These religions tend to center worship around specific places, texts, and rituals that are distinct from everyday life. While they provide profound systems of morality, cosmology, and purpose, they often do so by drawing a boundary between humanity and the rest of creation. Hinduism, though closer in some ways to animistic ideas, still organizes its spiritual structure through complex hierarchies of deities, castes, and scriptures. However, it retains echoes of animism in its reverence for rivers, animals, and mountains. The Ganges is not just water, it is a goddess. Cows are not just animals, they are mothers. This spiritualization of the natural world points to Hinduism's ancient roots in animistic tribal beliefs. But over time, these ideas were folded into an expansive religious system, layered with metaphysics, rituals, and sacred texts like the Vedas and Upanishads. The key difference lies in how each system relates to power and place. Major religions often centralize spiritual authority through prophets, books, and institutions. Animism decentralizes it. It puts spiritual power in the hands of the listener, the dreamer, the one who can see the shimmer of life in ordinary things. Where organized religion might seek truth through revelation, animism seeks it through relationship. Where one might build temples to house the divine, the other might sit beside a stone and listen. Yet despite these differences, animism has deeply influenced the world's religions, especially in their earliest expressions. The Old Testament is filled with remnants of animistic thinking: burning bushes that speak, rivers that part, stones that cry out. Saints and angels often resemble spirit intermediaries. In rural Christianity, animistic practices continue quietly. Holy wells, sacred groves, and local spirits still honored despite doctrinal disapproval. In Buddhism, particularly in Tibet and Southeast Asia, local spirits known as nagas, yakshas, or land guardians are still respected, blended into Buddhist cosmology in ways that keep animism alive under another name. What organized religions often achieve through structure and theology, animism approaches through intimacy. It does not require belief in dogma, only attention to the world around you. It does not seek to convert, only to connect. There are no sinners, only those who forget their relationship to the living world. And redemption doesn't come through faith in an abstract heaven, but through restoring balance with the spirits here and now. In the end, animism and organized religion are not enemies. They are different responses to the same human longing: to belong, to understand, to feel the presence of something greater. One looks up to the sky, the other listens to the ground. Both, in their own ways, are reaching for the sacred. If animism is the spiritual lens through which people perceive the world as alive, then mythology is its poetry, the vivid, symbolic language through which those spirits speak. Myths in animistic cultures are not mere tales or metaphors. They are spiritual truths encoded in story. They serve as living memories of a world where the trees whisper secrets, Rivers carry prophecies and animals walk between realms as guides and guardians. These myths don't simply entertain, they educate, initiate, and maintain the sacred relationship between people and the more than human world. In countless animistic traditions, trees are among the most revered beings. They are seen not only as life givers, but as living entities with wisdom far beyond human understanding. In Celtic mythology, the oak is a sacred being, a gateway between worlds, often associated with strength, stability, and divine presence. The Druids believed that groves were natural temples, and specific trees were inhabited by spirits that could bless or curse. In Japanese Shinto, massive trees, often marked with a sacred rope called shimenawa, are homes to kami, spiritual presences that can offer protection or demand offerings. These trees are not symbolic of gods. They are gods in their own right, their presence woven into the daily lives of those who pass beneath them. Rivers, too, are central figures in animistic mythology. Flowing across landscapes and time, rivers are seen as living, breathing deities. In India, the Ganges River is not just a source of water. She is Ganga, a goddess descended from the heavens to cleanse sins and carry prayers. Her waters are sacred, and her moods, from gentle trickle to catastrophic flood, are seen as expressions of her will. In African animism, rivers are often home to powerful spirits such as Mami Wata, a complex water goddess venerated in West and Central Africa, as well as the Caribbean. She is both beautiful and dangerous, capable of bestowing wealth or drowning those who disrespect her. These river spirits demand rituals, songs, and offerings, for they do not merely pass through the land, they shape destiny. The sky, in many animistic stories, is not just an expanse of air and stars, but a realm teeming with conscious forces. In Inuit mythology, the aurora borealis is believed to be the spirits of ancestors playing across the heavens. In ancient Polynesian beliefs, the stars were considered navigators, not inanimate guides, but conscious entities assisting sailors across the ocean. Thunder and lightning are often personified. In Yoruba cosmology, Shango, the thunder god, is not a distant celestial being, but a present spirit invoked through drumming and dance. In many Native American traditions, the great thunderbird is a sky being of immense power, whose wings bring storms and whose presence marks spiritual transformation. The sky is not above us. It surrounds us, interacts with us, watches us. Animals hold a sacred status in animistic myths. They are not lesser beings or resources. They are teachers, ancestors, even creators. In the lore of the Haida people of the Pacific Northwest, the raven is a trickster and a creator who brings light to the world, constantly shifting between helping and challenging humanity. In Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime, the rainbow serpent is both a creation force and a water spirit, slithering through the landscape, carving rivers and shaping hills. The serpent is not feared. It is revered, honored in songs and dance for its role in forming the world. Many animistic myths feature shapeshifters, spirits or beings who take animal or hybrid forms to move between the human and spirit realms. In Siberia, the reindeer is not just hunted, it is a vehicle for the soul, a sacred creature that can carry shamans through the dream world. In Andean traditions, the condor and puma are more than animals. They are cosmic forces that represent different levels of existence, revered in the rituals of the Inca and still present in indigenous beliefs today. What ties all these stories together is the animistic truth that spirit is not restricted to one form. It moves through tree and storm, through feather and fang. Myths provide a structure for humans to understand the invisible forces shaping their world. They teach people how to act, not just toward each other, but toward the land, the animals, the weather, the spirits that share space with them. A myth about a river spirit that punishes greed isn't just a tale. It's a reminder to honor the water, to never take more than is needed. A story of a talking animal isn't fantasy. It is a cultural memory of a time when communication with nature was commonplace. These stories are still alive. In many parts of the world, people still leave offerings at sacred springs, still whisper to the trees, still see the fox in their path as a messenger, not a coincidence. Animistic mythology survives not because it is preserved in books, but because it is practiced, lived, told, and believed. It evolves with the people adapting to new landscapes, languages, and experiences, but always carrying the same message, that the world is not inert, it is conscious, it is listening. In the tapestry of human myth, animism provides the oldest threads, vibrant, primal, and deeply connected to the earth. These myths remind us that our ancestors didn't believe they lived above nature. They believed they lived within it, surrounded by voices, watched by eyes, and guided by stories older than time. Many assume animism is a relic, a worldview fossilized in ancient times, buried beneath layers of civilization and science. But animism is not dead. In fact, it is quietly experiencing a powerful rebirth. Across the globe, people are returning to the roots of a world they intuitively feel is alive. Through New Age spirituality, the rise of ecological consciousness, and the resurgence of indigenous voices, animism is re-emerging, not as a forgotten religion, but as a living language that speaks to the soul of a planet in crisis. In the realm of New Age spirituality, animistic ideas are woven throughout modern practices. Crystal healing, energy cleansing, astrology, and plant medicine all operate on animistic principles, the belief that objects and elements contain unique energies, personalities, and wisdom. People speak of the vibration of stones, the spirit of plants, the messages hidden in dreams. These ideas might appear modern on the surface, but their roots stretch deep into ancient animistic frameworks. When someone smudges their space with sage or talks about the spirit of the moon, influencing emotions, they are participating, knowingly or not, in a form of neo-animism, one that blends old beliefs with new insights. It's a movement not bound by dogma, but driven by experience and intuition, often emphasizing personal connection with the natural world over formal rituals. Environmentalism, too, has become a new vessel for animistic thought. In a world increasingly threatened by ecological collapse, people are turning to spiritual systems that emphasize interdependence, respect, and reverence for the earth. Animism offers a radically different ethic than the industrial, mechanistic view of the planet as a resource to exploit. It invites us to see nature not as property, but as kin. Forests are not just ecosystems. They are communities of beings. Rivers are not pipelines. They are ancestors. This shift is not just philosophical, it's political and urgent. Movements for climate justice often echo animistic principles when they advocate for the rights of nature, legal frameworks that recognize rivers, mountains, and forests as living entities with legal standing. The Wanganui River in New Zealand, for instance, now holds legal personhood, a victory made possible by the Maori people, whose spiritual understanding of the river shaped legal action. These changes reflect a global longing to repair humanity's broken relationship with the earth, to return, in some form, to a world that is alive. Perhaps the most profound expression of modern animism comes through the resurgence of indigenous traditions. For centuries, colonization and religious conversion attempted to erase animistic beliefs, branding them as primitive or demonic. Sacred lands were seized, rituals were banned, and ancestral stories were silenced. But today, from the Andes to the Arctic, from Aboriginal Australia to the plains of Africa, indigenous peoples are reclaiming their spiritual heritage. Young leaders are reviving the songs, languages, ceremonies, and cosmologies that kept their cultures alive for millennia. Animism is not a trend to them. It is their identity, their lineage, their resistance. For many, this resurgence is not only about cultural pride, but survival. For the wisdom held in animistic traditions may be crucial to guiding humanity through an age of climate disruption and spiritual fragmentation. Modern animism does not seek to recreate the past exactly as it was. It recognizes that we live in a different world, one filled with cities, satellites, and digital networks. Yet even here, animism adapts. A smartphone can be treated with respect. A city park can be honored as a spirit refuge. The sacred is not limited to the remote or untouched. It lives in any space where presence is recognized. As people rewild their minds and re-enchant their lives, animism becomes not just a belief, but a practice of attention, a willingness to see the world not as silent, but as singing. In today's fractured world, the return of animistic thinking may be one of the most healing forces we have. It restores wonder, it rebuilds relationship, and it reminds us that even in an age of concrete and code, the spirit has never stopped speaking. We only stopped listening. Animism is often misunderstood as simplistic, a patchwork of primitive superstitions meant to explain the unexplainable. But when examined closely, it reveals one of the most profound and poetic philosophical frameworks humanity has ever conceived. At its heart, animism offers a vision of the universe that is relational, participatory, and deeply symbolic. It asks not just how the world works, but how we are meant to live within it. In animistic thought, every aspect of reality is interconnected, and nothing exists in isolation. Life, death, and consciousness are not separate events or properties, but expressions of the same living current that flows through all things. To the animist, life is not restricted to the biological. A being does not need blood or breath to be considered alive. A stone can have presence. A river can carry emotion. A mountain can hold memory. Life is defined not by function, but by relationship. If something can be communicated with, if it can influence or respond, then it lives. This understanding collapses the human-centered view of consciousness. We are not the pinnacle of awareness, but participants in a vast web of sentience that includes trees, stars, clouds, and dreams. Even silence is considered a form of communication, a pause that holds meaning, a breath that speaks without words. Death in animism is not the end of existence, but a transformation. It is a doorway, not a wall. When a person dies, their spirit does not vanish, it changes form. It may return to the land, rejoin the ancestors, or inhabit another shape, a bird, a tree, a breeze. The soul is not bound to a body or a single lifetime. It is fluid, cyclical, and eternal. Death is not feared in the same way it is in materialist cultures. It is respected, mourned, and ritually acknowledged, but never seen as annihilation. Funerals are not just for saying goodbye, but for guiding the spirit into its next state of being, and for maintaining the connection between the living and the dead. As for consciousness, animism sees it not as a rare spark confined to human minds, but as the very fabric of the universe. Consciousness is not a possession, it is a field. It exists within and around everything. The boundary between self and other is porous. When you listen to a river or speak to a fire, you are not engaging in fantasy. You are participating in a conscious dialogue that reflects a deeper truth, that the world is aware, responsive, and alive. When we look at the world through the lens of animism, everything changes. The tree outside your window is no longer just wood and leaf. It is a presence. The wind is no longer just weather. It is a whisper. The earth beneath your feet is not merely ground. It is a body, an elder, a memory. Animism doesn't ask you to believe in anything abstract or unreachable. It invites you to notice what is already here. It's not a religion that pulls you away from the world. It's a return, a remembering of how to live in relationship with everything that surrounds you. Throughout history, we've built towers and temples, written scriptures and sermons in search of the divine. But animism reminds us that the sacred is not only above us, it is beside us, beneath us, and within us. The bird's call, the shadow of a passing cloud, the warmth of firelight on skin, all of these are not just parts of the natural world. They are moments of connection with spirit. And in a time when so much feels fragmented and hollow, animism offers wholeness. It teaches that the universe is not empty or random, but full of story, meaning, and companionship. This belief system, as ancient as the first breath of language, continues to guide people not because it explains everything, but because it connects everything. It shows us a way to walk gently, to speak carefully, to listen deeply. In the animistic world, there is no such thing as just a tree or just a rock or just an animal. There are no its, there are only thous. Everything is a you. We live in a world that often forgets this, a world that rushes, consumes, and dominates. But animism asks us to slow down, to notice, to enter into dialogue. It doesn't demand obedience, it asks for relationship. It doesn't offer salvation in some other world. It reveals the sacredness of this one. And maybe, just maybe, in that recognition lies the path not only to spiritual healing, but to planetary survival. So the next time you hear the wind rustle through the trees, or catch a bird's eye for a flicker of a moment, pause. Consider the possibility that something ancient and wise is looking back at you, that the world is not silent, it's singing, and it always has been. If this journey moved you, awakened something deep inside, or made you see the world differently, subscribe to the channel and like this video. The story doesn't end here, it's just beginning all around you.